Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Legend of Zelda, Master of Magnet Princess. In this part, we explore the Goron mines.
I'm sorry, because I've been playing Resident Evil in preparation for the remake coming out next week. I thought you were about to say Master of Unlocking Princess.
I mean, Link is that
No,
too.
Master of Magnet is much better.
I mean, Link does do plenty of unlocking, so I suppose. But I would say that he's not.
Twilight.
He's not a master because he hasn't learned how to open a door without using up the key. So there's that.
You can't help how brittle the keys are.
I mean, how have they been able to?
Yeah, can we talk about that? I know we probably brought it up like a million times in Ocarina of Time, but why are the keys made of aluminum foil?
I like how Link was doing his fancy spinning his sword around to sheath it animation, because that happens sometimes when you finish a battle. But you just completely aborted it to open the chest instead. You're like,
it's actually, I'm glad you can cancel it because it'll happen after you finish any fight, even if there are a couple of enemies 2 feet away. And so you just kind of want to get a move on eventually.
Yeah, it's I like the little animation though. I like it when games do that. They do something a little stylistic flourish to give your character some character.
Oh no!
Oh.
This is why Ted doesn't play the platforming games.
No, I'm bad at. Okay, so you see, if you remember like the Ocarina of Time playthrough where Ryan knew where everything was and got everything relatively quickly, or the Majora's Mask playthrough where John practiced feverishly so that he could show, impressive gameplay to our audience. You guys think that I'm good at video games? Pshaw. I'm bad at video games and too lazy to practice, so you get to see me.
Yeah, but you forget to ask though, Ted, at what cost?
Right now I'm kind of in a similar place. I'm recording the Devil May Cry 4 playthrough, and I was like, I'm going to practice as Nero, I'm going to practice as Dante, I'm going to be all skillful, but then one day I just decided, you know what, I'm going to stop putting this off. I'm going to play this game, and I'm just going to screw around while I play. So the result so far has been a game in which I alternate between being pretty stylish and fucking up in hilarious ways all over the place.
If you want to know why it took us this long to get to that game,
Sounds like a good balance.
If you want to know why it took so long to get to the game in the first place, the reason is because my gameplay was nothing but the latter half of those things.
Yes. So, one of the things that was, I think, that's good about playing a game like this, is that you do get to see me have to kind of make the cogs turn a little bit as I'm playing, which I think is important for a game puzzle heavy like Zelda. And the benefit of this being a post-commentary channel is that I can skip past if I'm being too bad. Pretty much. So don't worry, I skip out any points where I get lost or if I'm stuck on a puzzle for too long. Or I don't think I ever died while playing this, I think. I don't think I ever ran
Do you?
falling into lava.
Again, I know we probably went over this thing. we probably went over this little tidbit millions and millions of times, but my mindset is not so much I can edit past this, but how do I play this part of the game while wasting as little time as possible?
Yeah, well,
without it being a speed run.
I guess that just I more think that editing exists for a reason, and future me hates that mindset because, God, editing this playthrough was a nightmare. Because not only is it a long game where you have to pay attention to the footage in order to know where to cut, but at first my video editor didn't like the codec I was using, so it ran super slowly in the editing. So
that sucks.
Yeah, so that was fun. But at the end of the day, I think if the difference is just me not having the game done and me having the game done, I'm just gonna do what needs to get good or whatever. I don't know.
Do what needs to be done.
So, when you were talking about the area not looking visually distinct, I get it for most of the dungeon, because if it's just lava or, rock or whatever, then I agree, but these things, I love the crystal, magnetic, whatever the heck this is supposed to be.
I like them better if you didn't move so damn slow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just talking visually, it's really pretty. And there's rooms full of it, and I think it's cool. And there's
I definitely think that's the highlight of this dungeon, but I don't know, it's maybe if it were a little bit more glowy and more centralized around it.
Yeah, they introduce it a little bit later into the dungeon. We're like a fourth of the way through it before we even see the tutorial section. for it, but I don't know. I like that this 3D Zelda feels three-dimensional, if that makes sense, because I'm actually not a huge fan of the 2D Zeldas. Like, I mean, like the real ones, because Zelda 1 doesn't really count because it's old. But like, the only one that I've beaten is Link Between Worlds, and that game's fine, but I couldn't really get into the other ones I've tried. I've tried Minish Cap, I've tried Link to the Past, I've tried one of the Oracle games, I think Ages. And the dungeon design I just didn't find as interesting because it felt more, for lack of a better term, like a video game, and less like a world that I'm exploring and a labyrinth that I'm trying to figure out, if that makes sense.
Unfortunately, that is kind of an issue with the 2D Zelda games, is that things are very small, contained, snappy, and you know there's a certain flow and sense of fun that comes with that. But it's a different flow and sense of fun from what the 3D Zelda games have.
Yeah, at that point, it's just what do you prefer? Like, do you like something?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think it just boggles down to what do you play Zelda for?
I mean, there's
a different mindset. I go in with 3D Zelda games. I'm expecting something more immersive, and 2D Zelda games, I'm, for lack of a better description, want more fun.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I'm still of the mind of I'm still a person that at some point would like, you know, just cut out all the fluff. I would gladly take a 3D Zelda game where it's just dungeons of this caliber for like 15 to 20 of them.
Have you
no
played
stuff in between,
Pandora's
just...
Tower, Ryan?
No.
Pandora's Tower is basically just a game of like 12 really big Zelda dungeons.
Cool.
Wasn't that one of the games that we weren't going to get in the West?
Yeah,
for the Wii?
that's one of the 3 Rainfall games.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, and there was like a massive petition to get them localized, and that's how we got Xenoblade and Pandora's Tower.
Yeah.
One of the
out of the 3, it was the game that I enjoyed the least. But that was also when I wasn't as open to the Zelda experience, so to speak. So I might go back to it eventually. Like, obviously, you'd have to deal with the game looking like a 2008 or whatever Wii game if you're going back to it at that point. I also...
Yeah. Well, so does this.
Well, I mean, that's true. This is true. But it's trying to do more, I guess, if that makes sense. Like, it's trying to be more complicated with how it looks, and so you can see a lot more seams if that... I don't know how much sense I'm making, but I think if you look up some screenshots, you might know what I'm talking about. By trying to be more ambitious on the hardware, it suffers some of the same visual problems that Xenoblade Chronicles on Wii suffered, where, yes, the art design is indeed gorgeous, but it's trying to do stuff for a platform that just quite couldn't handle it.
Yeah, and so as a result, some of the details are a bit...
yeah,
and the faces.
And as a result, the sequel abandons all attempt at making the art style unique or interesting. What? Did I say that out loud? Okay, moving on. Anyhow,
oh no, the comments are going to erupt into a war between Xenoblade 1 fans and Xenoblade 2 fans. They both look good in their own way, but you know, I just happen to
that is the coward's answer.
Xeno 2 never really like bothered me with the art style that it went for. Probably because I'm just a massive Tales fan and I'm used to Animu.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that is a good good point.
That's the thing. If it was a Tales of game, I wouldn't have looked twice at it. It was like, okay, same old, same old. At least it's a little less crazy than Berseria. But you know, it's a sequel to Xenoblade, which had a nice kind of balance to its feeling, and you know.
The only thing that really bothered me was Rex's hair. Rex's hair just kind of like...
You know what?
He looks better, like, now in the final version, but at first when they first, like, started releasing video and, like, screenshots of it, I was like, Rex looks bald.
I know, I'm not even remembering what Rex looks like.
His outfit's blue. I remember that. And his boots are, like, actually, his boots remind me of the Iron Boots. Now that I think about it.
His hair is very, 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 very short.
You know what's confusing me? It's because when I hear his name, my mind automatically goes to Rex, with a K, from Final Fantasy XII, the guy you play as during the tutorial sequence.
Oh, you see, I'm thinking of the green dinosaur from Toy Story, so... You know what? That would be a very different game. Someone, make a quick paint shop of Rex as Rex from Toy Story and Pyra as Ham, and we'll see how. Or maybe as Mr. Potato Head. I don't know. Pick one.
This is sounding like. This is sounding like the most glorious clusterfuck parody ever. But you know what would be even better? Xenoblade Chronicles 2 Muppets Edition.
I mean, the problem is that game is like 60% waifu, and there's only like three female Muppets total.
It'd be like 10 bajillion Miss Piggies. So
yeah,
that would be in character for Miss Piggy.
If I remember correctly, there was a Muppets Wizard of Oz adaptation, which I haven't seen, but that I hear is not particularly good, where Miss Piggy does have to play both Glinda the Good Witch and the Evil Witch at the same time at some points, and that seems pretty funny to me. But yeah, God, did Magmore John, you're the Metroid person. Did Magmore Caverns have a similar structure to this at some point where like space pirates hit out in it?
What do you mean?
Like
in
Magmore
Prime?
Caverns, yeah, Metroid Prime. Is that what did I say something else?
You just said
I'm
Metroid,
just-
which technically would
Okay.
technically denote a few places, but
Well, I said Magmore Caverns, which is Metroid
Yeah.
Prime.
Yeah. Which, to be fair, that's only Prime. But what do you mean?
Like
what do
the
you-
center
what's the-
area with the big tower with the guardrail in the middle,
Yeah.
and you have to take a couple of ramps up it. That's like an area in Metroid Prime, right?
Yes,
in the lava
it is.
level.
Yeah,
Okay,
it is.
there we go. So I'm not just going nuts. Okay, thank you. That's just all I wanted. Because I keep on thinking Magmore Caverns whenever I see this area, but there's no reason why I should specifically...
There's no security drones here that shoot you off the sky.
It's also just there's no reason why I should specifically think Magmore Caverns as opposed to the 15,000 other lava levels from video games past, And now we've got a quiet lake setting. Awesome.
Man,
Tektites.
whenever I see lava in a
It's
video
boiling
game, I
water.
just end up thinking of when I was really young and stupid, and I got feelings of hype just from seeing a lava level in any kind of video game at all.
Like maybe it's
That's
the inner
weirdly wholesome.
maybe it's the inner 6-year-old in me, but I still kind of feel it too. Like if it's done well, like if it's
I feel it if it's not Mario.
well, no, sometimes Mario can do it. Like the what's it's called the lava level in Mario Galaxy 1, I really like.
Well, I didn't get into the Mario series until I was older, so...
Galaxy does something interesting with it. Mario lava levels are, outside of Galaxy, very fucking generic.
Well, when I say I got feelings of hype just from seeing a lava level, I mean I could see a screenshot in a magazine of the lava level from Rascal and think it looked awesome. I was dumb.
I mean, I don't think that's dumb. I feel that for foresty looking things, and I get excited when I see that there's like a really pretty forest area. I think it's just like a matter of like what aesthetic really.
Well, I was
Makes you
thinking
excited?
I was thinking of a kid who had no taste at all. So this is when I was like 12 or something.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. A lot of like I'm thinking of like the new Super Mario Brothers lava levels. Like if you're talking about that, Ryan, and maybe it's just because I'm so done with NSMB whatever art style that makes me.
Oh no, I'm currently at the time of this recording just going through U Deluxe just to play through it a little bit before our eventual Momocon commentary. The whole game is so fucking bland.
And like here's the thing is that a lot of people say it's one of the better ones, but I don't feel it.
Well, I think gameplay and art style, are two different things.
Well, like even the levels don't feel different.
Even the levels don't feel particularly interesting.
I will still argue that U is the best of the new bunch.
And
Well,
honestly,
by comparison, sure.
The problem is that none of them have their own identity.
well,
no.
no, the first one has its own identity because it was the first one to have that identity.
Which I think retroactively is diminished because of just how many other new games there were. Now it just feels like a lesser version of.
Oh, so the same reason I'm not a particular fan of Mario 3 at this juncture.
Yeah, but you can turn into a Koopa shell and Rayminta stuff. So
Yeah, Mario 3 still has the Hammer Brothers suit.
yeah, but what you don't ever get, okay? Like you actually get the
You can
Koopa
get it
shell.
twice.
You get it twice? Oh, yeah, whoop-de-doo. Thanks. Anyway, the slingshot's useless in this game. Like, I think you
Yes, it
literally only use it, like, the one time in the first part, and then you never... I hate you guys so much. And then you never touch it again. I think... Oh, I forget what commentary... Not commentary. What Let's Play Chugga did when he brought it up. He said something like, I don't get why so many Zelda games have the slingshot and the bow when they both do the same thing. The only one where I kind of forgive it is actually Ocarina of Time, because it's the young version and the old version's version of the same weapon.
Okay, but why can't you use a slingshot when you're old?
Because
It's
that's
too
not
childish.
proper.
It's a kid's toy.
But also, it would have helped before you got the bow.
Yeah, but maybe... Okay, hold on. Here's my...
Shut up.
Here's my game theory, alright? Here's my game theory. Adult Link is too strong and he'd break it.
I think it's implied that some of his existing stuff doesn't survive the passage of time.
But the milk lasts 7 years.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that the developers of Ocarina of Time had extraordinary attention to detail. So,
I mean, for some of the stuff, I do get it, but stuff like the boomerang, which you barely use before you toss it into it gets taken away from your inventory, can't...
He just forgot how to use it, that's all. He forgot how to throw things.
Well, to be fair, have you ever tried to throw a boomerang so it actually comes back at you? It's hard. Like, it's...
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
I've never
but
even held
also,
a boomerang in my hand.
It's like a magic boomerang, right?
Yeah.
It should still have some magic left in it.
So, like, Australians are the most badass people, because as we all know, every Australian has a pet kangaroo and can throw boomerangs like nobody else.
With
So-
deadly force.
With deadly force.
Ah, yes.
Because, like, that's actually how you were supposed to use a boomerang. Like, they were a hunting tool, and you basically just chucked it at something, and it hit something hard enough that it died, pretty much. So,
That's gruesome.
yeah.
I mean, that's what they were for, so...
Slingshots were also weapons, so yeah.
And were yo-yos, so Ness actually had something going there.
Oh yeah.
Because, like, there are ancient yo-yos with, like, saw blades on them and stuff.
Yikes!
Yeah, it's not just
Oh,
like
no.
it's not just like a Dead Rising combo weapon or anything like that. That's a real thing that existed, and it's
Okay,
awesome.
I obviously like knew about the boomerang and stuff, but I did not realize yo-yos were a part of that bracket.
Yeah, I don't remember if it was made as a toy or as a weapon first, but they definitely existed. I'm sure it wasn't a common or particularly effective weapon, but it was one. So
I mean, the
Interesting.
history of weapons is weird because everyone likes to glorify the swords, mostly because the only people who used them were royalty.
yeah,
Most of the common plebs used axes or lances because they were just the easiest to use.
oh no, the spear is just a way better weapon than the sword because you can reach much farther.
It's
You know?
it's also higher up in the weapon triangle than the sword.
Yeah, the only, like, honestly, like, the weapon triangle makes sense when you're thinking about lances versus swords and lances versus, okay, I'm shooting through the
Yeah.
wood there, okay. But if you think about it like lances versus axes, okay, axes were designed to cut through the poles of spears. That makes sense. And then lances versus swords, you outreach them. That also makes sense. I don't really get how swords are much better than axes, really.
They're
Longer, you can stab with them, which counteracts the axe's cutting.
they're more flexible
Yeah.
at close range. Is the general thing.
Okay.
More options. But you know.
I mean, I guess.
Which is why the common plebs didn't use them because they didn't really know how to fight. They were told, "Those guys over there, go poke
Hit
the
stuff with the sharp
Yeah,
end.
hit stuff with the sharp end. That's all you need to know.
Yeah. That's actually, I think, why the crossbow was invented, because it took people way too long to learn proper archery with a longbow. So, whereas the crossbow is just like, here, point this at the thing and it will die. Cool, thanks. And most normal
He
people
shoots himself.
shoot self in foot.